Hey, good morning, Stuart, Florida. It is Saturday, and it's about 6:43, and just having a little cup of coffee with my quarter stick of butter and a little bit of creamer and a half a teaspoon of stevia for a little sweetness. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go over a little bit each morning. Some of my habits, things that I do to be healthy, to stay well. And the first thing is my mornings are always spent reflecting my yesterday. I like to make a list of things I accomplished yesterday and also things I have made a mistake on, things I could have done better yesterday. It's good to reflect on your habits. I had read that that's what Benjamin Franklin did. He improved himself by going through his inventory very harshly on himself, and he looked at where his qualities were and where his weaknesses were, and then he made a commitment each day to improve those weaknesses and to accentuate his qualities. He was a very disciplined man, and he followed each quality each week, or each thing he said he would not do each week. And one of the issues I've been working on is to find no fault. There's a lot of things that I could find fault with in the world. Sometimes I think I'm the best judge of life and character and people's actions, and it just wastes a lot of my mental energy. So I try really hard to find no fault, and to sometimes what works for me is I picture myself. I picture the person who is going through their throes as a young person, as a baby or a young boy who's just scared, who doesn't quite know what how to behave yet or how to act, and we would give them a lot of compassion and a lot of patience. We do with children, and yet when it comes to an adult, we feel like they should know better. And I'm not the arbiter of anybody's behavior or the judge of anybody's behavior. That's what the police and the judges and the courts are for. My job is to be happy and to show as a good example, to be calm and to be able to show through example that you can be calm at the same time when everyone around you is losing their head. And this morning we're going to be at the Crunch Fitness, and that would be in Stewart, right there on US 1. And Monterey Road is the big Crunch Fitness. It's one of the most popular workout areas that I've been around in a long time. I mean, I'm 65 years old, and I've been to a lot of gyms, and I'm a chiropractor for 35 years. And it's always great when you go to a gym and you see a lot of people working on your health. You wish you could have access to those clients. And typically the gyms would never let you in, whether it was Bally's or LA Fitness, they were very restrictive. Crunch Fitness, on the other hand, has a great corporate membership that they offer to businesses, people like me, and anybody who has a business. And I think it's like $140 a month, and you get 4 memberships that you can share with your family or your business associates, and they don't expire. You can change them from person to person, but they also allow you to come to Crunch and set up a marketing table, an actual, a display where you can talk to people and you can engage in thoughtful conversation, and you can set it up twice a month. And it just happens to be that this morning, Saturday, is our day, and th- to say it was a gift is an understatement. The people that go to Crunch, or if you go in the morning, it's an older clientele versus the afternoon or the evening. It's much younger, and a lot of people come in for the yoga classes, for the Zumba class, for the cycling class, for some of the health benefits that would be more for people in their 40s or 50s or even 60s and even into their 70s. And that's really our clientele, is we do laser body sculpting, and we're also using the red light devices to help to shrink and reduce subcutaneous fat, these fatty outer layers, the stuff that is so difficult to target with diet and exercise, especially when you're over 50. I used to say it was over 60, but I guess you could say my Rubicon, my crisis came when I was 52 years old. And I woke up one day and someone called me fat. And I was offended by it. I didn't think I was that fat. And as I look back at pictures, I was floored at how much weight I was carrying. Oh my God, I was actually 265 pounds when I was 52 years old, and had a belly that was 40 inches. I had the male boobs, which I wasn't even really aware of what they were. But I do know that I was starting to become pooped out. I was tired all the time. Food had taken a much more important role in my life than it was when I was younger. I used to eat just because I was hungry and I needed energy. And all of a sudden, food became something that I ate to feel better, for something to do, for sharing, rewarding myself for a successful day, going out and eating late at night because I was bored. And those types of habits over time can really devastate your metabolism, because basically you're overeating. You're becoming what they call fatted. You're becoming the fatted calf, as the Bible says. If that's what they do. They talked about when Jesus came back, when the story about the prodigal son, who had the two sons for the father, and the one son said that he wanted his inheritance and wanted to leave the community, his father's protection and his father's home, and the father said, "Well, sure you can. You have every right to do that." And he wanted half of his inheritance. And remember, there was two brothers, and so the one brother took the inheritance, off he went, and the second brother stayed back and worked with the father and continued, doing the labor and the things that he'd done for a long time. And the brother who left had gone out and had taken that money that he had and basically squandered it. He spent it, overspent, ran out of money, and was working. I think the story was he was working in a pig farm, and he was getting fed what the pigs would get fed. And he didn't think that was such a cool place to be after his greatness and then his descent into poverty. In other words, he squandered his money. And he felt that he would be treated better if he went back to his father's home. And so got up and left the pig farm and went back to his father's home. And as he was coming, the father said, "Look, there's my son, my forgotten son. And quick, get them the best robes, get him the finest jewelry, the gold ring, and kill the fatted calf," he said. "My son has come home." And of course, the son who had stayed there was quite resentful over that. And he said, "How can you treat this? He left and squandered everything, Dad. How can you do this?" And he said, "Yeah, but everybody deserves a second chance, and he's home now. And so we're going to treat him properly." And it brings me back to the fatted calf. And, we are becoming the fatted calves. I mean, the excessive food we're eating and not ever really backing down is creating an overly fatted situation. And even in the Bible, the fatted calf was slaughtered, and over time, it's something that we really have to look at, because it's creating this what you call an obesity crisis. And with obesity comes inflammation and excess weight gain. And with excess weight gain, we have back problems and knee problems and neck problems. And, we're starting to have low energy. Our libido starts to take a dump. Life is not so friendly as it once was. And we start being challenged with high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and maybe your triglycerides are elevated. And you're looking for, it seems like it's normal, that it's just aging in some way. And it's not aging, it's being unhealthy, and it's becoming overly fatted. For most of you, that's really the cause. And for others, it's from being poisoned, having too many toxins in their environment and too many toxins in their food, and not really being mindful of the importance of detoxification. If you were to take a car, drive it until it filled with carbon from putting bad fuel in it all the time, and it started to run rough and shot and wouldn't start up and was starting to lose power, you would clean the carbon out. You would do something to detoxify the fuel system. You would clean the exhaust pipes, whatever it takes to clean out the carbon that accumulated so the car would run better. Your body is very similar to that. You're collecting poisons and toxins from your environment, from the food that you're choosing. And it would be fine if it was just a once or twice a month. But most of you, a very large percentage, are eating these improper, impoverished food products. They're not even food anymore. They're products, 3-4 times a day, every day, for months and months on end. And we actually, it becomes a cult. It's the nacho cheese cult, or the goldfish, these little crackers that people eat and snack on all day long. And, these foods over time make you sick, not the first day you eat them. It's very, very insidious. And one of the things which is critically important, I practice weight loss, and I practice metabolic health repair, and I sit down with people that have enormous success, many of them in their lives, with beautiful boats and living on the Manalapan Inlet in $1 million homes. And they can't even walk out to the dock and climb into their boat. They're so unhealthy. And, one of the first things we have to look at when I work with somebody is where's your poison? Where's your toxin coming from? We have to identify it. Where are you hurting yourself? Is it smoking? We figured that out, right? Most people know smoking isn't the best thing to do. Well, what about, alcohol, excessive alcohol? A drink once a week after dinner is not a problem. But drinking every day when you come home, and skipping meals, and, going to sleep drunk where you're not getting the proper restful sleep that you need, and overeating because of, one of the things with alcohol, when people drink alcohol, is they're much more likely to overeat. It doesn't mean that alcohol is making you fat. It does, but it's usually the habits that come with it that are worse. So that would be a poison, a toxin that we need to look at. You could also be working with computers all day long and all night long, and staying up with your phone and texting and shining that blue light, that light emitting device in your hand called a cell phone, is definitely creating high blood sugar, and it's creating cortisol, because it stimulates your eyeballs to think it's bright sunlight, yet it's 10 o'clock at night. And these devices, these electromagnetic frequencies, these energy devices, are making us sick. It is a source of poison and toxin in our bodies. So are the foods that we're eating. And, you see RFK is trying desperately to remove some of the dyes and these petroleum-based products from our foods, which are non-nutritious. They're just there for coloring and for softening and for preservation and for really lame reasons. And He's trying to remove them. Well, when I work with somebody, we have to look at where are your toxins coming from. Everybody's being hit with these poisons and toxins. And as a result of that, you can't really help somebody to lose weight or to be metabolically healthy if you do not stop the poisoning of their body. So, critically important, you got to look at these things and make a decision. Is this really how I want to live my life? Imbibing into these poisons and these toxins, because the body accumulates it all. You don't get it doesn't like run clean once you rinse yourself with water. It stays in the body and it collects mostly within the fatty tissue, because fat is a substance which is symbiotic, or it attracts other poisons, other lipid poisons. So most of the poisons that our body cannot get rid of are what we call fat soluble toxins, things which you need soap or some kind of solvent to remove them. And and then there's water soluble toxins, things which are easily rinsed away with water. So in the morning, you think of a water soluble poison, that would be a bad clam. You ate a lizard tail that you shouldn't have, that slipped into your sandwich, and next thing you know, it was a poison, and your stomach knew right away that you ate it, and you throw up. You ralph it out, and you get the diarrhea. That's a water release. Your body is 77% water. It gets rid of water-based poisons very easily, and you don't need any soap. You just throw up, and 3 days later, you're okay. Well, the other type of toxin, these fat-soluble toxins, they occur in nature, but they really more occur in man-made products. And that things with. And sorry about that. We had a little loss of picture there. And mainly the petroleum-based products are the things that we're, cleaning with, covering ourselves with, spraying in the air, taking, clothing that's now made from petroleum, the plastics, the water bottles that we're drinking water from all the time, there's so many purposes of petroleum based products that we can't really ignore them or avoid them. They're ubiquitous with living in a modern technology world, unless you live on some mountain. And even then, you're probably going to get some jet fuel going to be dumped on top of you as a jet flies over. And I'm not making fun of this. This is a serious problem. And what's happening is, as we are getting slowly distilled with these petroleum-based poisons, our body's not able to release them like it could if you had eaten a bad clam or a bacteria. It stays in your system. And, one way that you've been poisoned is you smell it. Just remember this. Your body cannot, if you smell car exhaust, or you smell paint thinner, or you go by the mall and you go past the where they do the nail salons, and you get a whiff of that, that poison, whatever it is they're using to clean the nails, the nail polish remover, or maybe you're working with paints, a spray paint, and you don't have a mask on when you're spraying the paint, and you smell it. When you smell it, it is in your bloodstream. Your body's olfactory, your nose, which determines smells, is something which has a memory, and it has to be broken into the water droplets, and then the body recognizes it and tells you what it is. But that means it's in the system. So where does it go once it's in your system? Once it goes into your bloodstream, which is where it does end up, does it stay in the bloodstream? Of course not. And your body has to put it somewhere. has to either excrete it, remove it, or store it. And since your body doesn't secrete petroleum-based products, they don't pass through the urine, and they do not pass into the bowels. They are mainly stored in your fatty tissue. And that fatty tissue is, that fatty tissue is where your body puts these poisons. It's a safe place to put them. And for that reason, this is one of the reasons why obesity is a crisis in Western worlds, is because of the poisons. And then we're being poisoned by the toxins that we can't remove from our bodies, and they're stored in the fat. So within the fatty layers, and there's inner fat, visceral fat, and there's outer fat, which is subcutaneous. The inner fat is where you have your day-to-day calories, and you do not store a lot of poison in your inner fat, by the way. That's kind of like your kitchen at home. That's very tissue that you're using every day. It's being replaced. Every day you eat, you're replacing it. But the fat that accumulates on the outside of the body, in front of the muscle, but underneath the skin, is called subcutaneous fat. And that's the outer layer. That is the layer where we store, 80% of our poisons and toxins are stored in the subcutaneous fat. And that would be, the analogy would be the food you have in the garage for emergencies versus the food you have in the kitchen for day-to-day use. Because subcutaneous fat is also where you get calories if you were to go a long time without eating, such as you were trying out for the Naked and Afraid series, right? You're going to go 30 days in the woods without any food. Visceral fat supports your needs very well for the first week or two, but that starts to run out is what happens. And then when that runs out, your body gets very efficient at preserving muscle tone, and basically it starts to go after the fat in the outer surface, the subcutaneous, not first. So, and in today's modern Western world, the people that come in with subcutaneous fat layers have also toxins and poisons tied up within those layers of fat as a protective mechanism from whatever they were exposed to. So people that live up north in the area where there's a lot more industry and there's a lot more lower smog coming in, they don't have the same clean, fresh air we have here in South Florida. They're going to come in with a lot more poisons and toxins in their body, and as a result of it, have a more stubborn layer of subcutaneous fat that just isn't going to go away with diet and exercise. Why? Because it's protecting those poisons. They're locked up in it, and when you start releasing the fat that protects them, you feel like you've been poisoned. The poisons now are liberated. They go into the system, and you say to yourself, well, I've given up carbohydrates. The doc told me to stop eating sugar and stop eating all the white products, and I did, and now I don't feel very good. I woke up last night. I had the sweats. I couldn't sleep. I noticed a metal taste in my mouth. A lot of people say that when they first start losing weight. And they're like, I got to work tomorrow. I don't feel well. And you know what? I'm craving carbohydrate. That's what they say. The only thing I've given up is I gave up that big plate of pasta that I used to eat right before I went to bed. And or I've given up my ice cream before I slept. I've given up some things. And what happens is we revert back to that product, that big plate of pasta or that chicken parmesan sandwich, and we make fat after overeating a meal. You don't make fat after 20 meals. You make fat after each meal. And you can make a half a pound of fat after one meal. You can cover up that toxin with that layer of fat that you just ate, and you feel better. You go, I feel better. I mean, I was miserable last night. I woke up, I was sweating. I didn't know what, I was confused. Remember, your body needs glucose for the brain to work. And when you start changing your source of energy, you're going to have these ups and downs. And those ups and downs are usually alleviated by re-eating carbohydrates because it raises your insulin, and it becomes this yo-yo, this trap that we fall into. We need the carbohydrates to feel better. Insulin is elevated when we eat carbs. And then what happens is the carbohydrate load is too much. It's too much glucose, makes you sick. And then as a result of that, the glucose makes you sick. And then what happens is your insulin drops, and now you're hungry and hangry. You got to eat again. And, and then it's just this up and down, this up and down. And that's how most of you are living your life. That's why you can't go very long without eating. And, what I have learned is that if you want to help somebody with metabolic health, you have to identify where they're getting the toxins. Where is it coming from? That's the first step. Once you determine where you're getting those poisons and how they're coming in, we work on intelligently removing them with discipline and with discipline. You have to look at some of it. Why are you putting yourself in that situation? Then once you determine we're starting to lower those toxins, then we need a detoxification regimen that will detoxify those fat-soluble poisons, those toxins, which are not going to leave your body just because you lose weight. They stay in the system. They're petroleum-based poisons, and they collect in the fatty tissue. And if you don't have a mechanism or a tool to break them free, to carry them out of the body, you're not going to get rid of them. So how do we handle that at the Slim Body Spa? We know that the poisons are tied up in the outside fat, the subcutaneous, the stuff you can squeeze between your fingers. We know that the circulation to subcutaneous fat is very poor. There's not great circulation there. It's designed that way. Otherwise, you'd lose all your heat. It's designed to have low blood flow, and as a result of it, we're treating and we're protecting we're getting rid of those poisons and toxins. So we have to help get rid of them. And one of the ways we do that is we do that with the red light device. We put the red light and low-level laser paddles onto the subcutaneous fat. And what that does is that starts to open up the fat cells, and it starts to bring circulation into the area. And basically, it dislodges some of those petroleum poisons products which are stored in the fat. And then we move into something called a whole body vibration plate. We use whole body vibration plates. And the plate itself, as it moves your body, it helps to stimulate circulation, and that kicks those poisons and the fatty acids into your bloodstream. Now, the way you handle the fatty acids are you're hungry when you do this. So your body burns the fat because you haven't had food in 3 or 4 hours. And at the same time, you're taking some very safe herbal supplements that help bind with the poisons. And they carry these poisons out through the urine as you go through this process. So the process is a 30-day process. It's 9 laser sessions in 30 days. You can have 12, about 3 times a week for 4 weeks. At the same time, you're taking your supplements and you're using the whole body vibration. You're avoiding putting the poisons back into your body, and you're starting to feel better. So that's what we're doing there every single day. If you're interested in a free consultation, you like what you hear, give us a call. I'm going into work shortly. It's Saturday. We'll be open to see clients, and we would love to help you out. It's a free consultation. I'll sit down. I'll explain the process to you in a way that you can understand. And all you have to do is give us a call. It's Dr. Treds Slim Body Laser Spa, and we're located in Stewart on Ocean Boulevard, right across the street from the Fresh Market. And we are accepting new clients all this month. May is Metabolic Month, and we are doing a new patient drive to bring in new clients for the month for the summer. Okay? If you like what you heard, I'd love to meet with you. My name is Dr. Tred Rissacker, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much.